Good evening and welcome to the Select Board meeting for Ashland for June 26, 2024. Welcome. We have a few special guests in the audience. We have some scouts, life scouts, who are here learning about civic engagement and about their community, so it's nice to have them in the house. And with that, I'm going to ask them to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great.
I went to school and get it, so you do it just like that.
We are calling this meeting to order. Please be aware that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live via WACA-TV and live streamed on Facebook. Remote participation is available using the Zoom video conferencing platform. Any disruption with the video conferencing platform will result in the platform being shut down. In the event of a disruption, broadcasting will continue on WACA-TV and live streamed on Facebook. Welcome. We are going to start with citizens' participation. If there's anyone here who'd like to speak to something not on our agenda or to our agenda. Please introduce yourself.
Evening. Dr. Sony, 49 Hawthorne Road, Ashland, Mass. Let me stand back and get the whole picture. It is on the agenda. Thank you for saying that at the last second. Last night, comprehensive plan, the best group session they ever had. Worked together, understood together. Let's hope that the town is working to be together. Makita, you missed a great night last night. So next time you come, we can't put it on tape for you to have a report.
Well, Mark, if you remember, I was there, but then I had to leave because there are some logistical issues happening. So I'm sorry I missed it, but I will be there for the next one.
Okay, then we just have up-and-coming siblings come with you. That's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Is there anyone else in person or via Zoom for citizens' participation? If not, we have a public hearing at 7:15, so we can't start that until 7:15, unfortunately, because of how it's announced. But we will jump down to old and new business. Let's start with item A, announce the Select Board scholarship recipients. Joe and Claudia, if you'd like to take us through that, please.
You ready?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. We had the distinct pleasure of representing the board at Class Day, and we had two presentations to give, two awards, and they went to Andrew Luago and Emily Umholtz, both deserving. We had 28 total applicants for the scholarships, and every one of them was deserving. And I think Claudia and I, and tell me if I'm wrong, I think we want to tweak it a little bit, because I think it was a little bit confusing to some of them because we didn't receive a lot of the requirements that were asked for. So maybe if we go over it and try to maybe make it a little simpler for them to I don't know how much simpler more we can make it, but it's just, you know.
It's pretty straightforward as it is.
But I think they got confused with the essay that they needed to write. And it's not a letter of acceptance, but a letter that, you know, what work did you do for the community and not for the school type? And I think they got confused with that aspect of it. Just a little. That's my
interesting, because
interpretation.
go ahead, Claudia.
Well, I just think that sometimes there's an overlap there, right? And so I think that some of the kids were trying to reference the overlap that might exist between those two types of service and that. And I mean, I think if that's the most important criteria for us, then, you know, I don't know, do we need to weight it, or do we need to, you know, spell it out that that's the number one? Just say it outright instead of making them guess. And then certainly the other thing for the, you know, some students who were missing, you know, an item here or there. So what we could do is just make it so it, you know, the submission is not accepted unless all these things are done, right? So, you know, because I'm sure some of them didn't even realize that they were just being disqualified because they hadn't right, submitted all the pieces, but.
Well, I know, I mean, Joe, you and I can to attest this over the years, right? There's always the kids who, they do it quickly, or they don't submit everything, or, so, I mean, I certainly, if we can automate it, to Claudia, to your point, of if you don't have everything in, it's not even accepted and you're notified of that, the more automation, the better.
Please
But
look at it and resend it, resubmit
Yeah,
it.
we talked to.
And, I mean, maybe clarify the statement that we're looking for what they've done for the community and not just for their school.
Yeah.
So, great, okay.
Thanks.
Well, thank you for doing that. It's always a fun time to go and
Yeah,
get to
I
announce
just want
those.
to add that we had so many, and they were all very deserving
Very
candidates.
qualified,
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I think, I had the pleasure of knowing Emily when she went through Mindes and really knowing what, a great kid she was, and how even I can remember sitting with her a couple of times and having conversations, and she was so mature, such a together young woman at the time, really beyond her years. And Andrew came to us after Mindes, but I did actually, we were kind of tied on the second applicant, and did a little research and heard some great stuff about him. So
Nice.
I think that we were both pretty excited about
Yeah.
the candidates, and only wish that we had more money to give to everyone.
Everybody, yeah.
Right.
Well, that's certainly a conversation, right? We upped the amount we're giving to two. We could certainly say, do we want to spread the wealth a little bit? But that's a discussion for another time.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So,
Well,
and
thank you.
just a quick, before we move on, so we gave two $2,000 scholarships, correct?
Yeah.
So all you Boy Scouts back there, take notes. So this will be important things to remember as
When you become
as-
seniors.
Yep. So, but anyway, so thank you guys for your work on that.
It's always
Okay.
fun.
Next item on our agenda, because it's still not 7:15 yet, is discuss setting up a joint meeting with the planning board. So Claudia, you had brought this up at a board report, so I just wanted to find out what people were thinking, what are their thoughts about this, and just to let you know, we are also in the process of trying to set up a joint meeting with the planning board specifically for the comprehensive plan. So,
Yeah, so I think the idea behind this was more, and I have had an opportunity to talk to a couple of planning board members, was more that it was less of a working session as just kind of a time to come together and just have, some conversation and build a little, collegiality amongst the two boards. And so it wasn't necessarily to have, like I said, be working on one particular topic
Right.
or that.
No, I understand.
And that was indeed, I talked to Tricia, and I think I talked to Kate as well. And that, I think, is what, when I originally had mentioned it to them, that they were interested in that
okay.
kind of a meeting, right?
Thoughts from other members? I think it's a great idea. Go ahead, Nikki.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, actually. I think we should definitely move on that as soon as we can. Be very helpful for a lot of reasons.
Evenings, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. I know it's tough, those of us who work during the day and have lots of other meetings and stuff, but we have 10 people's schedules, plus town manager and possibly the town planner that we may want to have there as well, so.
When's your next comprehensive plan meeting?
In July. The joint meeting that we're looking to have with the planning board is going to be a presentation by the consultant, and then they're looking for that to be about a half hour, and then they're looking for the comprehensive plan committee to go off and do some work based on that meeting. So unless we do it before, but I think the feel that I'm getting from Claudia is it's a more casual thing. It's
Yeah,
not
I mean,
sitting
we
around
could try
this
to-
table, I think.
If it's easier, we could certainly try to piggyback it.
Yeah.
And have, some snacks and a meet and kind of a gathering beforehand.
Right, or it's maybe a downstairs for an hour before and then come up. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
something along those lines, or,
Okay.
even a little bit longer. I mean, I'd certainly be willing to host something if that worked out better. I'm
Okay.
open
Thoughts?
to what works for the members.
I think it's a good idea. I think that if we're going to try to get everybody's schedules together, though, we should have at least some, I don't want to say meat on the bones, but that's kind of,
Why are we getting together kind of thing?
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're going to, not only are we going to have the comprehensive plan meeting where we're trying to get the boards together, but we'll also have something coming up about MBTA communities at some point that we're going to jointly need to meet. So maybe it's sort of a preamble to one of those two meetings instead of trying to get a third date where we are all trying to get together. But I think it's a good idea. I think the more that we work collaboratively, it's
Yep. Oh, definitely.
a good thing. So.
Okay, great. I'll reach out to Tricia and we'll get this going. Okay. Next item, as it's still not 7:15, is vote on a one-year reappointment of town council. So we did the review of town council. We can only appoint them for 1 year. And there was nothing in the packet for this, so I think all of you maybe have hopefully met with Lisa and other members of her team from other things that you've done here in town. So basically, we just need to vote to extend their contract by another year. Do we need anything else on that, Michael?
No, it's just, it would just be the year ending June 30th, 2025.
Okay.
And, I would just say based on the evaluation that you covered during the last.
Starting July 1st.
Starting July 1st.
2024.
Yep.
All right, so I'll make a motion to reappoint town council beginning July 1st, 2024, and ending
June 30th.
31st,
2025.
June 30,
30th,
2025. Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
Great, thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, 5-0. Thank you all, and we have our town council for another year. Great.
Can we
Okay,
approve the consent agenda, seeing that we have a minute or two? Because it's only one quick vote.
sure,
If somebody wants to.
sure. No, that's fine. We can do the consent agenda. If I can get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented,
So moved.
and a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Consent agenda. I'm just going to break away for a second for the young gentlemen who are watching us. So you're looking at the agenda. You have a copy of it for you in front of you, right? So if you notice, there's a lot of items under the consent agenda. And what happens is those are all pretty straightforward things that we don't really need to discuss, that it's either reappointing someone or thanking someone, or let's see, yeah, those are most of this. Approving minutes, things like that. So by putting them all in one item called a consent agenda, we can quickly pass 6 items in as quickly as you just saw it. We also use it at town meeting for certain things that are the same year after year. You're welcome.
I'd like to thank Matt Naga for his time on the town.
Town forest, yep. Okay, great.
One question,
Sure.
sorry. Because I wasn't prepared yet to vote consent agenda, and I
Oh.
apologize for that. But I think we only got one set of meeting minutes, and our consent agenda said 2. I think we only got meeting minutes from June 5th. I don't
So you're
see.
missing the May 24th?
Yeah, I don't see meeting minutes from May 24th.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll scratch that May 24th was part of it. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry for the
No,
last
that's
minute.
okay. It's okay. Nope, that's okay. Okay, moving back, it is now 7:15, or it will be by the time I read this, and we do have Bill here for this next one. So, legal notice, Town of Ashland, notice is hereby given that the Select Board will conduct a hearing regarding the transfer of stock for Ashland Public Market, Inc., DBA Main Street Wine and Spirits. Ashland Public Market, DBA Main Street Wine and Spirits, 197 Main Street, Ashland, Mass. 01721. A public hearing will be held on the matter on Wednesday, June 26, 2024, at 7:15 p.m. Persons wishing to be heard on this matter are invited to attend the public hearing in person or by logging on to the Zoom meeting. Interested parties who are unable to attend the hearing may submit written comments to the Select Board's office, Town Hall 101, Main Street, Ashland, Mass. 01721, or by emailing Susan Roby at sroby@ashlandmass.com. Okay. So we've announced the public hearing, and we are reviewing a change of stock option for this entity, and that's it. William, if you could come up and take us through the change and why it's necessary?
Okay.
Actually, motion to open the public hearing,
Second.
which I've read.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Perfect.
Good evening.
Now we
William
can go.
Goldberg from Main Street Wine and Spirits. This is just house cleaning on some paperwork that came to our attention in the past year. Just when my father passed almost 27 years ago and my uncle passed 5 years ago, they never properly split their businesses in the eyes of the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission. And so this is just letting them know that my dad and my uncle don't own the business anymore.
Okay, good. And we, unfortunately, Susan's not here, but either Jen or Michael, from what I can tell, we had everything we needed in our packet
Yeah,
to
and-
approve this. Okay. Okay,
And as far as I'm aware, we have not received any comments.
okay. Okay.
Well, congratulations on your new business, or about to be a new business.
Any questions or, well, anyone here to speak against this? Not that I expect that, but we just need to go through. Any comments or questions from the select board regarding this?
Bill.
Is Bullard's Market still in operation?
It is under new ownership.
Okay. Because that was your uncle's business, right?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
All right.
His son sold it to the person that had been working there for about 30 years. So,
Okay.
and that took place last year.
Last year?
Yeah, that's pretty much when all this came to light.
Oh, it came to light? Gotcha. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
okay. Any other questions or comments? If I can get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then if I can get a motion to approve the stock change as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that carries 4-0. You are all set?
All right, thank
Thank
you
you.
all.
Now congratulations.
Now, congratulations.
Congratulations.
It's finally mine.
There you go. There you go.
Now the fun starts.
Thank you.
Yeah, right?
Great.
Nice kid.
Okay. Moving on, I see Steve Greenberg is here, so if it's okay with Steve and everybody else, if he's actually still there. Okay, until we see him, we will move on, because my understanding is that Steve is giving the presentation from the Affordable Housing Trust. Okay, so let's keep going down our old and new business until we see Steve come back. Vote to approve a one-day Beano Bingo license request from K&B Crayons and Beyond to be held on August 9th, 2024 at the VFW 311 Pleasant Street. We have the information. This is basically just they're looking for a one-day license to be able to do this program, and it is a fundraiser for K&B's Crayons and Beyond, a nonprofit charitable organization. Michael, we just need to vote to approve the one-day license, correct? Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay. I move that we approve I would ask for a motion to approve the one-day Beano license as requested.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
great. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. And that passes. Good luck to them.
And if not doing anything that day, go and support.
Do we all need to sign?
You should sign the license.
Okay. We'll do that after the meeting. Yeah. So remember, no one can leave until we've signed that license. Great. Wonderful. Still no Steve? Well,
He
he's,
said he needs to be let in, he's here.
oh, he just needs to, Maybe he doesn't realize he's here.
We could see him.
Oh, now he's gone.
Now he needs to be let in.
Must be on some good medicine. Oh,
Right, we want to make him co-host, yep. Okay, well, as we continue working on that, Michael,
want to do the town hall?
yes, let's do the update on the assessment of the town hall.
Sure. So, so just a couple of updates related to town hall and essentially the infrastructure. So, one of the things that we have been working on is, first of all, basically securing the building. It had a significantly cracked beam based on when the renovation was done, I think around 2005. So what happened was the proper supports wasn't put in place in order to support the HVAC systems that were put in place. So unfortunately, that led to a pretty significant crack and twist in one of the main supporting beams, which so we've ended up going through and having to get an architect and engineer, and so that's been fixed and secured. So that's number one. The second thing we've been doing is, I mean, as you can see, the exterior, we painted it probably 8 or 9 years ago, but it's looking a little tired, a little rough. So instead of just looking at painting this time, one of the things that we've done is Doug Scott, our building commissioner, who's kind of heading this project, he went and secured a lift with an architect to actually go through all the town hall and the exterior and kind of look at the places that have rotted and all of that good stuff, and making determinations of what needs to be replaced and how it can be replaced. And so he's taking that assessment and putting it all together, and we'll put that out to bid later this year to do the work, like whatever kind of replacement work needs to be done, and then as well as painting. And so one of the things I will make clear is that we used a composite material for the steps because we felt that that was probably most appropriate. But for the town hall proper, if you will, the exterior, we'll be using more like the historical period materials.
Okay.
Wood clapboard, stuff like that.
Okay.
So,
Good.
so anyway, yeah, it was, as we all know how hot it was last week. And so, Doug, we've got some good shots of Doug up on the lift with all of his safety harness and stuff. So,
Okay.
So has that main support beam been repaired, or is it in the process of being
Yeah.
repaired?
So it has been repaired. Yeah, and there were a couple of other things, like apparently there was another support that was supposed to be put in place. Really kind of, I'm looking up because it's kind of in this area, and it was not. So that's been taken care of and addressed. Not anymore. We probably should have moved a long time ago, Joe. But now we're in good shape.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Any other questions?
We had budgeted for this year, right? Like we
Yeah.
had, when we were looking at the budget for, this was part of that allocation.
8 million, the 8
Yep.
million, yep.
Are we thinking that this is gonna, depending on like how much replacement and stuff, is it gonna align with what we had projected that the cost would be?
It should. I mean, I think we'd put in 450.
Okay.
And yeah, that should cover it. I was
Okay.
kind of hoping we'd have some more left over, but it doesn't sound like, based on Doug's estimation, that's going to be the
And
case.
unfortunately, pricing right now for
Ugh.
clapboards are higher, so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on the town hall
A
project,
question
Joe?
about the painting. I'm sorry.
A question about the painting. Do you ever consider using Rhino Shield?
Joe, I think given the historic nature of the
Yeah,
of the
it's not
building,
something
yeah,
that, okay.
yeah. Are you're talking about like a composite type of
More of like a
type of
plasticky.
siding? Yeah.
It's the type of paint, right? It's more of a plastic.
It's a ceramic.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
ceramic
paint.
type of,
Yeah.
I think we'd probably be looking more at the traditional,
Okay.
acrylic or
I'm just saying it would
latex.
last longer and it would save the town's taxpayers money over the years type of deal.
Yeah, I mean, if we wanted to go in that direction, then, I mean, we would look at something like a composite type of material for the siding. But given that this building's on the National Register,
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Yeah.
exactly what kind
Maybe
of
it'd be an
limitations
interesting
that we
question
have.
to ask
Yeah.
to see if they would allow that, Because I know a lot of historic places down in Florida are using it, so.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the Secretary of Interior standards. I get to know those with the Valentine one quite a bit. And there's certainly times when it is appropriate to use that. If I remember correctly, it's really more in a location that's not very visible to the public. But
Town Hall was just on Chronicle on Monday, right?
that's true.
So
That is true.
we don't want to,
So,
okay, good.
let's see.
Seeing no other questions on the update on the Town Hall project, and we see Steve Greenberg. Steve, welcome.
Thank you.
If you're ready,
Madam Chair,
we can start a little bit
apologize
early.
for technical difficulty. I tried to unmute and unvideo, but here I am. So
Great.
thank you for inviting me to this evening's meeting, and happy to answer any questions. And maybe first I could tell you a little bit about what's new and what's going on with the Affordable Trust.
That'd be great.
Sure. Currently, there's a property on Main Street that the trust has been working with the property owner and Habitat for Humanity to develop a single-family home on that property. And that's been a long time vacant parcel of land that we're excited about the possibility of developing an affordable unit there. And Habitat's been great to work with. The property owners have been great to work with. So they're working their way through the process, and the state. So we look forward to Habitat coming in front of various boards in town in the very near future and getting something put up on that lot that serves the affordable housing numbers here in town.
Great.
Another project we have been working, I'd like to say collaboratively with the select board, is Olive Street and the former Simpson property that the town has owned for quite a while. That property was purchased a long time ago with Community Preservation Act funds, 2 buckets, open space and affordable. It's a property that has some uplands on the street and a lot of wetlands in the back. And I think beavers probably enjoy that property more than anyone, but we did some wetland studies years ago. We had all that updated and approved through the Conservation Commission, and we took those new boundaries and setbacks, and the trust retained a landscape architect, a gentleman by name of Stephen Cosmos, and he's come up with some scenarios of very limited scope because, again, of the wetlands sort of make it a small envelope. Yeah. So I have a document I can, if I'm allowed to, I could share screen with everyone or just talk about it, whichever you prefer.
No, it'd be great if you could show it. I believe you're set up as a co-host.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can just share your screen.
Here with me, please.
So Joe, this didn't get into our packet, but you all should have received it via email from Joe.
Is that visible?
Very good. Yep, that's it.
Okay. So what the landscape architect has done has taken a section of Olive Street that probably has the greatest depth in terms of setbacks with road, wetlands, and zoning, and come up with a couple of different scenarios here that challenge both access to the parcel and the number of units. So the top left has 6 units with 12 parking spaces, as does the rendering on the viewer's right. The parking gets a little complicated, but the purpose of putting something like this together would be in the hopes of, with the select board's approval, going out with a request for proposals that gave those who might be interested in developing 100% affordable units on this property some ideas of what they could potentially develop. So we would have, for someone who'd be interested, a full set of wetlands and topography and approvals, as well as these particular renderings. Maybe they could come up with something that fits better, looks better, maybe has a few more units, but again, it's very compact. And so that would be the affordable component of the property. And again, because of the extreme wetlands there, I think the balance of the property would be for those to enjoy, whether they want to walk back there and get their feet wet or just have something pretty to look at.
Okay.
So that's something we'd, again, like to further discuss with the select board to see if they'd be interested, willing to go forward with an RFP. And I think the other most recent update to the Affordable Trust is that we're at full membership. Carlton Phelps has joined our ranks, so that brings our membership to 5. And he's new to the trust, but in our last meeting, he very much participated, and we look forward to his future interest and future additions to the trust and what we're trying to get done.
Great. Questions or comments? Claudia, go ahead, and then Brandy.
Hi, Steve. I have a couple of, one question about the Main Street property. So how does that work when somebody, like the owners are selling it, or, well, they must be selling it to Habitat for Humanity to build?
Well, like any real estate transaction, Claudia, you need site control. So they have site control. They have a purchase and sale agreement with the property owners. They needed that to present not only to various boards here in town, but to the state.
Okay.
So there is a contract. They haven't shared it.
Right.
I think that's private between them and the property owner. But
so I guess the thing that I was trying to get at is if somebody owns property and they, want to make it available to a developer who would build something, or in this case, Habitat for Humanity, is it sold at a competitive market, or rate, or is it discounted in some way, or does the state participate because it's going to be, for affordable housing, or?
I don't think the state contributes in terms of financial.
Yeah.
I think the biggest financial contributor here will be the town of Ashland through the Affordable Trust.
Yep.
Because, as mentioned earlier in talking about rehabbing town hall, construction costs are silly. Soft costs to get something approved is not cheap. So I would say that, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the purchase price on this property is probably what's reflected in the contract. So it's probably a 25-30% of what would be market rate. But I think, Claudia, it all depends on the project. But, sometimes property is donated.
Right.
The YMCA project is a donated parcel.
Yeah, no, I know it is, yeah.
It's not the easiest parcel, and maybe that's why it's still available.
Yeah.
But I hope I answered your question, or if I didn't, please tell me how I can better answer the question.
Yeah, no, I think you have. And then the Olive Street property, so that's currently owned by the town. And then for it to be affordable units, how does that work? They're set by the certain formula in terms of price. Are there some priorities given to people who work for the town?
It depends on the size of the final project.
Okay.
I think, unfortunately, with Main Street, that won't be the case, but I think that can be certainly part of the RFP, that town residents might get certain advantages in the potential ownership or rental of the property on Olive Street. But there's pretty strict guidelines about that. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the parcel was purchased with CPA funds. out of the two buckets, open space and affordable. So anything that was sold there would have to be affordable, or built there would have to have deed restrictions relative to affordable. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so in those, though a developer there, right, are they, I'm just asking, I guess, is developing a property that is going to be affordable housing as lucrative as it would be to go and develop a property that isn't affordable housing? Or, you know, I'm trying to understand what the impetus would be for a developer to step up.
There wouldn't be impetus for a market developer.
Okay.
This is a project that entities like Habitat or others that might be looking for tax credits, but I don't think that would be the case here. This is not a financial gain by the town or the developer if we do something on Olive Street or Main Street. It's a negative capital improvement, if you will.
Stephen,
Right.
couldn't they go to the state? Right, there's housing, the housing authority at the state, that if they're building affordable housing, they can get some kind of financing as well. There's funding available for that. If you look at, like Robert Hill Way, they were able to get some
Yeah.
funding to help build that parcel, build that
Yeah,
property.
Robert Hill Way was actually a federal program, and there were tax
Okay.
credits, and that took years to get approved.
Yeah.
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 And those
On
aren't
many different
guaranteed.
levels,
Right.
that took years to get approved. In a case like Main Street and a case like Olive Street, I think the financing would most likely come through a state-approved agency for the homeowner.
Right.
But in terms of development and construction, I think it would be one of the primary fund sources would be the trust.
Right, okay. And
So
then,
with-
and then you're always kind of looking for a non-profit developer, if you will? Is that-
Absolutely.
Okay, and are those, is there a pool from which we kind of seek out? I know we've put out an RFP, but do we also advertise it with,
Well, I think that,
Just
if
with
she'd
the
be
RFP?
willing, I think Jen could speak to that. But the RFP is broadly advertised based on state guidelines, 30B guidelines. And there are a number of nonprofit developers out there. I don't see a lot of them banging on the door to get a project that is going to depend on a local funding and possibly some state assistance. But I think we can get it done. I'm actually very confident we can get it done at a price.
right?
The other thing too is the developer doesn't have to purchase the land because that's town-owned
Right.
land. So that there is that component of it, right?
The Olive
For-
Street parcel,
For the Olive
yes.
Street
Yeah,
parcel.
so they're starting at a different point than if they had to purchase
So the
land.
profitability
Right.
is
It's
a little
mixed
bit,
in
yeah,
A little bit
yeah.
better.
So,
I think there'd be some subdividing. I don't see if it's the individual units are purchased. I don't see those individual units taking any ownership of the balance of the land available in the back. I think we would have to look at a plan that subdivided out the development parcel, and the rest would stay with the town.
And what is in terms of their going through to the permitting of that with the planning board and that, what's that similar to? Is it
I think it
typical?
would be similar to, it would be a 40B.
Yeah, it's similar to a 40B, that's, I guess.
Yeah, so there'd be the zoning board of appeals.
Okay.
Michael, you wanted to add something, and then
Thank you.
Brandy?
Yeah, so Steve, what you're saying is like we would have to give the property basically to the developer, and then we would probably need to make an additional financial contribution, right, to make it financially feasible?
That's 100% correct.
From the trust.
From the trust
From the
funds,
trust.
correct, yeah.
From the trust, from the town, it comes from the town,
Okay.
from CPA to the trust, to the developer.
And the trust right now has significant funds.
Well, those funds aren't as significant as they used to be, but there are
But there's still a
some
fair amount.
dollars in the trust.
So,
I also envision, when we get there, to go to town meeting and let's hear what the town has to say about this project and ask for some funding at that
CPC.
at that time.
Right, so right now, there's still affordable, I mean, there's housing money sitting in the CPC bucket that has to be then moved from
To the Affordable
CPC
Trust.
to the trust.
But
Right.
so the monies would not be on top of
No.
the tax rate in any way, shape, or form?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Brandy?
That's already been.
I know.
So
Absolutely.
thank you, Steve, and the whole Affordable Housing Trust for all the work on the Olive Street project. I know the last time, I think that you were here, we were talking about, what potentially that could look like, and you had to do a lot of work on the wetlands delineation and all the surveying and all the groundwork to even get to this point. So seeing a sketch with actual units on it is pretty cool, I think. So so thank you for all the work on that, and I'm looking forward to seeing this kind of go to the next step. I was just curious, you had mentioned ownership or rental, and are these looking to be like probably 2-bedroom units, or how big little houses are these, or I guess
Yeah.
that's.
I think the state prefers 3 bedrooms if it's
Okay.
a property for sale. So I think that would be the way we would hopefully write into the RFP.
DCHD.
And
bedrooms.
I think in a development like this, the trust has talked about it for a long time, and I think Joe would back me up on this, that we're thinking more of a for sale rather than a for rent.
Okay.
I'd certainly like to see home ownership. And, what happens with entities like Habitat for Humanity, there's a lot of sweat equity from the purchasers that goes into literally from the ground up. They're involved in the construction. And, pride of ownership, I think, is important. So, we certainly want these to be an asset to the town and to those that are going to live there.
Great. And then, so as far as whether it would be, is it like, you look at certain AMI for these types of units, would you look at, Joe just said 80%, so
It's likely,
that's kind of what you're looking for? Yeah, okay, all right.
yeah.
Great.
So
I think they'd
80%.
probably sell in today's world, they probably sell around $300,000, which,
Okay,
that's affordable in today's world.
absolutely. Well,
Not really, but that's what the numbers say.
so just to talk about the 80%, it's 80% AMI, the area mean income. So who would be eligible for these types of units?
And with the current median
It's not
income being
value, it's not value of the
$125,000.
property,
No.
it's the,
So the larger the family, the more income they're allowed to make. Ashland is in so the districts are set up by HUD. Ashland is in the Boston district, so the allowable income is quite substantial, 100,000 plus. So the larger your family, the more you're allowed to make.
So,
and it has to be your first home, is that true?
There are some caveats there, Claudia, but typically your first home.
Okay, and this is into perpetuity, so,
Deed restriction would be in perpetuity. I think that'd be one of our, not only the town, but the state's requirement.
right.
and
Any
then
other?
just from a time frame perspective, what are your thoughts about like timing for, to put this out to bid for an RFP, and
Well,
I'm looking at Jen too. So I was just curious from your perspective, what that kind of looks like.
Well, if you want to make a motion, I certainly look forward to working with Jen to
I think
We need to put it on
I'd
our
get
like
an
to.
RFP out there.
Yeah, I
think-
just like, there's a lot involved in these things.
I also think, we're doing our retreat, the first meeting in August,
Yeah.
and we can talk about timing and how this fits into the other projects. I think a lot of work has been done, but I think before
we're
I'm
not
with
gonna-
you, I'm like ready to jump in, but
Yeah.
we know that a
Yeah.
lot needs to be done.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Because if not, I have a
Yeah, the only quick comment I wanted to make with respect to what Brandy just brought up is that the wetland delineation, we were really surprised at how much land we actually lost over the years.
Yeah.
When we did our first wetland delineation, and it's quite substantial. I mean,
You
we're
can
talking
tell
about
by looking at this
We're talking
plan.
about a ball field. We were thinking about putting a passive, recreation part of it. That's all gone.
Yeah.
All of it's all gone because of the delineation over
Well,
the
and
years.
because how the wetlands have increased.
Yeah, how
Yeah.
they increased, yes.
Would climate change, would that be?
I think the beavers, more than anything else.
The beavers, huh?
The beavers.
So Steve, thank you for coming and chatting with us. I just had a couple of comments / thoughts on housing and what we're trying to do here in Ashland. One of the complaints I hear from a lot of people is we're doing a lot of rentals and not a lot of purchase. So the idea that these would be for purchase rather than rental, I think is a great idea. The other thing to think about is I'm looking at the floor plans and, they're 3-bedroom. We also are hearing that people are looking for other forms of housing, right? They're not looking for maybe larger units, they're looking for smaller units. Instead of these being single family, is it possible to make these 2-family but smaller? Just things to think about. Is it something that we could do senior, right? Small senior housing that's affordable. I don't know. Those are just some of the things that I've heard people say. Certainly the small house thing that it's sort of something that's a lot of people are talking about. Instead of having a bigger house, having a smaller house, we could potentially fit more units on the land. Any thoughts on that?
I do have a thought on that, and it's unfortunate. I've had the pleasure of putting my sister's house on the market. She lives in Hopkinton on Lumber Street. She's surrounded by McMansions. Mm-hmm. And the house is 780 square feet. I'm not going to divulge the price that it's under contract for, but you would be shocked.
I can imagine.
We're talking between $400,000 and $500,000
Yeah.
for 780 square foot house. So,
tear it down.
bring that house to Ashland, you're talking about $425,000.
Yeah.
I think the development world out there has a good understanding of the market, and the right nonprofit developer knows what the state wants and what the town wants, and I think we can guide an RFP to get as much bang for as many bucks as we have to spend as possible.
Okay. Great. Yeah. I think all 3 of these, I like the ones where they go completely off the street to get into the development. I think because of Olive Street and either the one-way circle around or the entrance in and out, something that gets the houses and their front part so there's not, all the homes are not going in and out of Olive Street. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Great. Any other questions or comments for Steve? Gentlemen, any questions that you would like to ask? No? The reason I'm asking that, Steve, is we have three Boy Scouts here who are learning.
That's great.
Yeah, so they came specifically to hear about affordable housing.
I'll be happy to talk to them anytime.
Yeah, so you can reach out to Steve Greenberg. He's very knowledgeable. He's
Certainly is.
So, great.
Get better, my friend.
If there's no
Yeah,
other
I'm working
questions,
on it.
yes, feel better, Steve. If there's
you.
no other questions, thank you very much, Steve, for coming and speaking with us, and we look forward to moving these projects along.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you
to
for
See you
your,
soon.
thank you for
Thank
your
you,
work
Steve.
on this.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye-bye.
So many years ago, Jen and I and Brandy had the opportunity to actually work on a Habitat for Humanity house when it was being built in Holliston. So I think that's certainly one of the things that as Habitat comes into our community with this house, they, I'm sure, would offer opportunities for people who want to volunteer to help build. It's actually pretty cool to go and help and then see the house get built. And as Steve said, with Habitat for Humanity, whoever is selected to be moving into the home, they also have to put so much time and energy working on building their own home. So,
As Steve called it, sweat equity.
yeah. Great. Okay, wonderful. Thank you for sharing the information, Joe, beforehand. Appreciate that. Moving on in our agenda, update on the DE&I project. Michael. and probably Makita as well.
Yeah, definitely. And Makita or Jen, please feel to jump in here. But so, I'm happy to say that we've basically concluded our engagement with iSuccess Consulting and T. Renee Smith, the energetic dynamo that is the principal of said firm. So we got basically a lot of good actionable information from the surveys and the interviews that we did, which was a key component, the first component of this stage, which is developing a DEI action plan. And again, just to kind of refresh everybody's memory, we did interviews and surveys of both town leadership, also employees, and then also community members, and basically got their take on basically what their experiences have been and what they have witnessed and things that they feel that are important in the DEI realm moving forward. And we got a variety of responses back, which we did review as the DEI task force with the consultant. So since that time, Jen and I have met with our department heads to review basically the employee stuff and go through that and talk about basically what our potential next steps could look like. We still have to meet as the DEI task force and do the same thing. And I think although we don't have specifics right now, our next step we know is to do more of a communication out with the community to explain this is kind of where we are with the process, this is what we've heard, and then these are a couple of steps that we're going to take based on the information that we've received from an action.
Will the
item
report
perspective.
be available for the public to read?
Yes.
Okay.
And so that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Makita or Jen, do you have anything to add to that?
No, that was a pretty good rundown of what's happening. So, I don't really have anything to add, Michael. Thanks for the recap.
Yeah, thanks to the DEI task force again, and Makita and Jen being a part of that, but then also the other members.
Yes.
I think they've been very, very critical in terms of providing feedback, a good set of eyes, good questions to help guide this process. And thanks to the community and everybody that participated.
Let's say, yep, absolutely.
Will we be able to take this report and roll it into our work with the comprehensive plan?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes. And that was one of the
Yeah,
primary
I was about to say that
things
was
that we-
a key focus of what we were trying to do here. So, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, Makita and I have been very, very in sync in terms of the fact that from the very beginning that we can't have a plan that is sitting on the shelf. It has to be
Right.
actionable.
It has to be actionable, and it has to be executable, so, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions regarding the project from anyone else? Comments?
Just one quick question. Were you guys satisfied with the survey and how it came out? Were you surprised? Were there any surprises that you didn't take away?
I'll take the first part. I think that the methodology was sound. I was actually very impressed with the consultant and how they actually conducted the survey, and just how we gathered the data, I think, was very sound and solid. So, the results that we have are a good starting point, I think, for us. It's not the end-all, be-all. It certainly won't, give us any sort of complete answers. But I think it's a good starting point. Yeah. Michael, I don't know if you have, or Jen, if you have anything to add around that.
Yeah, I thought, like Makita said, I think the survey, the methodology and everything was sound. So I do believe that what we have is a good, accurate base from which to make decisions from or to work from. I think the range and the breadth of answers that we had elicited, I guess you could say, like a range of different thoughts and maybe even emotions from me, and I'm sure for everybody else. I was very appreciative of some of the data that we received, especially from some of the employees, because it didn't, even though it was focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, there were some other things just about culture that kind of came through that was pretty interesting and something that I think that we can use moving forward. So.
And this included not just general government, but the schools as well?
No, people certainly opined and offered their opinions on schools.
Yeah. But it was not, so that I think that there are a lot of opinions about many things in town, the town services especially, but also just business, folks experience generally in town around this. And of course, there are a lot of families who are part of the schools who responded and shared some of their experiences in that survey as well. But there was definitely, Joe, to get back to you, to answer the second part of your question, there was definitely a diversity of opinion of different experiences in town around this issue. So I think, again, I think it's going to be a solid foundation for us to start rolling up our sleeves and taking some action. Yeah.
So when you talk about staff, you're talking about general government staff was part of that and part of that discussion. I mean, I know the schools have been doing some work as well.
Yeah, they've
so-
been
They've
some
done
robust
extensive work.
Yeah.
They have.
tons of
Several
work.
years ago, even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay,
Yep.
great. Any other questions or comments? No? Thank you, Makita, for being on that. Thank you, Michael and Jen, for your work on that. I know it's very important that we look at what we're doing in our community because of how our community has changed in the last 15, 20 years. It's definitely, our community looks a lot different than it did before, so.
Yeah, well, I think every community should change, no matter what the community itself
yeah.
looks like. I think that, we are a world. We're not just these insular communities anymore, or even countries, right? Everything is, and I don't think we can ever have real peace and a good world when there are people starving and people, there's too many imbalances, right, throughout the world. So I think it's nice to certainly be in a community that embraces that, but everybody needs to.
Great, thank you for that, Claudia. Moving on, discuss and vote on the mass housing comment letter for the Oasis at Ashland located at 61 Waverly Street. And as of today, we have received 40 comments. You all should have received this packet. Unfortunately, it was as we were coming in, but there's a lot of similarities to this response as there was to the Mill response, where we had a lot of input. So, Michael, do you want to take us through this, and is there any big difference that we need to be aware of?
Well, there's a few. I think not necessarily big ones, but things that we should kind of run through. And as you mentioned, Yolanda, you all got this as you're coming in, and I do apologize for that. This obviously way later than gives you an opportunity to kind of digest this and make some comments associated with it. But essentially, the letter itself, I mean, the lead in terms of our rationale against why we think this project is not good the way it is presented, really hinges upon the work that we've already done in developing housing throughout the community, both in terms of what has been built and what has been permitted. And then, we also reference the fact that there is an additional 250 units that we're talking about aside from what we've detailed here that is at least, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term, on the table with the Mill proposal currently before mass housing. So this is a little bit of a different project and a little bit different site than the Mill. First of all, whereas the Mill has been seen and visible and has been talked about and plans put together for 4 years, this site itself, really, we haven't seen anything about it for since I've been here for a while, so it's relatively new. And then also, I think there's very little information that's required by mass housing as part of their application package. And I think, with the developer with like the Mill project, SLV, which has experience in Massachusetts doing a lot of 40B projects, I think in their application you see a lot of data, even more and above what's required from mass housing. Whereas with this one, it is a relatively new development company at least in Massachusetts. Technically their LLC for this project is RRSP Acquisitions, but it's essentially the parent company is Pacerne Realty Group, which is based out of Rhode Island, and they've done a couple projects now in Mass, or at least they have one that's built and one that's in the pipeline. But they provided relatively little data associated with their application as well. So it's been hard for our boards and committees to and our staff really to kind of take a look at it and and basically find specifics to, I don't want to necessarily say take issue with, but at least evaluate. But that being said, there are some. Just, again, like the project design itself, so if you're just looking at aesthetics, you look at what was envisioned by the town through the Wildwood Mixed-Use District where this project is located, which was, really supposed to be a self-enclosed and self-contained mixed-use district that had a variety of uses like commercial, residential, open space, recreational. Obviously the project as proposed through this 40B sticks strictly to residential. And so it just in that element, in that essence, it kind of goes against what the town had envisioned. Specifically with regards to the buildings themselves. So the height is something that I think that we've all taken issue with. So we're talking about on the site 2 4-story buildings and 2 5-story buildings. So on the site under the traditional zoning, I'll call it the traditional zoning or zoning, I should say, you could do a 5-story building as long as it's mixed use. If you only decided to stick to like a residential only building, the limitation was 3 stories. And so obviously you see a deviation from what our zoning is by having 4 and 5-story only residential buildings. So I think that's something that we take some issue with. With regards to infrastructure, of course, water and sewer is very, very, very important. And detailing, the issues with our water supply. And, look, the fact is that we do have this supplemental connection now to the MWRA, but we're limited in what we can basically take from Southborough in terms of gallonage. I think it's 300,000 gallons a day. So, there's potential to bump up against that, even if you don't look at the mill project itself. And then also the town sewer system, we've talked about the limitations associated with that, both from a physical perspective, but then also from, again, a paper perspective and what we're allowed to basically what they call an interbasin transfer from, the basin that we withdraw water from. And then, because essentially what we're doing is we're drawing water out of our basin and we're transporting it through our sewer system to Boston Harbor. And so, again, there's limitations that we're allowed to do through DEP in that, and then also with what we're allowed to basically transport through Framingham system through the intermunicipal agreement. And so, again, the addition of 226 units is not going to help that at all. So one of the things that we found I'll just say frustrating to a certain extent is that, in order to really kind of identify what wetlands resources that you're potentially impacting, you have to have an up-to-date delineation, or you should have an up-to-date delineation. What they have what the developer has provided is really kind of an estimation of what the wetland resources are. That is significantly out of date by a couple of decades. Now, the person who did that work, Joyce Hastings, I don't know if she's retired yet, but Joyce has done a lot of work in Ashland and in Metro West through GLM Consulting. But Joe, just as you mentioned how much the resource area, wetland resource area had grown on Olive Street over the past, 15 years, you can imagine having a very similar situation here. And so I think a real delineation needs to be done in order for us to see what the impact is. And I think that's going to impact the conceptual plan as well. Traffic concerns. Oh, wow. Obviously a little bit different than what in terms of the specifics than what we had with the mill site, but the fact is that 135 and Waverly Street is really kind of the main thoroughfare corridor from east to west, running through Ashland. And so, again, adding, I think there's 431 spaces, adding 431 cars. Let's just say, take that for what it is.
Add that to the rest of the traffic and everything you did.
Exactly. And then I think also the fact that it's proximity to the public safety building, which, obviously there needs to be, quick egress from our public safety vehicles to do that. And granted, we have, signalization and everything that's been put in place, but, anytime you're adding that volume. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. They provided no stormwater plan, so it's been really, really hard to evaluate what the stormwater impact would be. Again, I'll draw a comparison to, what we saw with the mill proposal, where we had an idea of what they were thinking of from a stormwater perspective, using underground systems and things like that. We could point out where that could be a concern. We really didn't have that much of an opportunity with this. So I think given all of that information, or lack of information, you can
Right.
say, I have, that the board is not supportive of this project as it's presented, and is asking Mass Housing to deny it as presented.
Did we ever mention the fact that this proposed project is directly across from the Brackett Reservoir? And the potential stormwater coming off of that could potentially be an issue to the Brackett Res?
I don't think I mentioned specifically Brackett Reservation,
Yeah.
but I did mention the fact, Joe, that, given the pitch of the site, the fact that there's a lot
Right.
of ledge, so you're not going to have a lot of infiltration, both during construction and after construction, you want to be concerned about the runoff.
I'm just wondering
Again,
whether
given the
that may-
pitch.
I'm just wondering if that may have been, or could be a potential issue for them.
Yeah, I mean, I
in
can
the
certainly
state.
add some specificity
Specifics
to
on
that.
That seems like a good idea.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is, you're talking about, again, the pitch of the site, and I know they plan on flattening it to a certain extent, but it's not going to be that way throughout the whole site. You don't want to have a whole lot of water runoff that washes onto Waverly Street or 135 that could freeze over, especially. That presents some challenges
We
as
know that
well.
all too well from the public safety building.
Right.
Well, and from Cirrus, right?
Cirrus, right.
I mean, that's built on a huge hill, and the
Right.
amount of problems
And-
they
and
had,
the-
and they had plans for their retaining pool and things like that, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Prior to it being built, so we were able to see
Right.
that.
Well, and then as they built
Right.
it, they had issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did, so in addition to our letter, I did, like similar to the last packet, include the information that we'd received from other boards, and then also the information that we'd received from the public and putting the
Yep.
form up and everything online.
Questions or comments?
Speaking of stormwater.
I just have a question, Mike. In terms of I know we talk about our sewer, that all of our wastewater goes through Framingham, and that's through an intermunicipal agreement. And so we're at capacity in terms of, or maximum what we are allowed to put through Framingham at this point?
Yeah, so there's different limits, Claudia. So there's like an annual limit, there's a daily limit, there's a peak limit. And with regards to the Framingham IMA, we exceed what's allowable under our peak limit at certain periods, like during certain storms and things like that.
Okay, so, and is it because, is there more capacity that would be on us to purchase, or is there not that capacity even out there?
There's potentially capacity that we could purchase. The other thing that you hear us talk about in terms of being able to expand our capacity is working hard on our I&I program, and making sure that any kind of leaks that we have in the system that contribute to what is flowing in as part of our sewage that's just regular groundwater is cut off, so that preserves that capacity for actual sewage to flow.
Right.
So there's,
But in the
physical things that we
meantime,
can do.
if, how do we add all these units if we can't, or there isn't the capacity to send the wastewater through?
I think that is a
It ju-
That is a
seems
good
like
question.
Pretty good basic problem.
That is a good
Pretty-
question.
It's a pretty straightforward problem.
President
Yeah.
AG already said that the sewer moratorium was.
Well, the housing moratorium.
The housing, the sewer one,
The sewer was
held.
okay.
The sewer was okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
Although, just remember, with a 40B project, like a.
they don't,
a
that
sewer
doesn't
moratorium.
impact them.
Yeah, but
But-
if there, I just don't understand, if there isn't the capacity to do it, then.
Well, and that is a broader conversation, Claudia, that's happening across the state, especially with the MBTA communities law, because there are some communities that don't have sewer. And so, talking about, putting projects in at a density of 15 units per acre, developing a septic system and having a piece of property that can handle a septic system or an on-site wastewater treatment plant.
Right.
It's very, very, it's one of those open-ended questions that the state didn't necessarily think about when they went through and passed this quote-unquote well-intentioned law,
And then again, in their proposal, these are all apartments. There's no home ownership involved in this.
Correct. It's all rental and all.
And that doesn't have to be the case with a 40B.
Correct.
Right, you
Correct.
could have home ownership.
You can have home ownership, and obviously there's benefits to each one. The primary benefit to the town for the rental units is that 40B, you get to count all of the units towards your affordable housing inventory, which gets you closer to that 10%, which in turn allows you to turn away 40B projects that are not necessarily desirable. Whereas with ownership projects, you're only allowed to count the affordable units, the true affordable units.
Okay.
And
However,
why that is, I still have not been able to get a straight answer.
and if the real goal is to give people the opportunity to have, perhaps ownership, then it would seem to me that if you're doing it for that reason, right, which is supposedly the reason this is happening, that 40Bs are in place, they are to provide affordable housing, and I would think in the long term some kind of ability to purchase and own, then you need a stepping ground, right? You can't, people aren't going to ever get into the market for the most part if they don't have lower
Yeah,
place to start.
I don't know that their idea is that we're going to provide affordable housing and that's going to get more people in the market. I think the idea behind a 40B, yes, they can do purchase, but the idea is just how can we increase the affordable housing stock? Right.
Yeah.
And we're seeing more and more rentals rather than homeownerships, right? You're not seeing condos, which is what you used to see in buildings like this, right? They would be condominiums, and part of it's probably the affordability or the long-term profitability. There's a lot, right, and yeah, possible market.
Market factors really, I would imagine, drive these sort of decisions,
Exactly.
Claudia, like,
Right.
insofar as these developers and what's profitable to them and what's
Start
not.
out as rentals.
Yeah, no, I understand that what the developers are in it for. What I'm saying is, what is the state in it for, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think certainly, when 40B was incorporated in the late '60s, the world that we live in Massachusetts was very, very different in a number of different ways. I do know with like the MBTA communities law, what the overarching goal is, even though I think the state has done a horrible job of really kind of saying this, is from an economic development perspective. And the concern that you have high-wage, highly skilled workers that are leaving the state to other parts of the country because of high housing costs. The idea is to create enough housing to, and I would assume, by just through traditional market forces, bring housing costs down just through flooding the market with units, that people will end up staying
Right.
here. My
There's a
whole
lot of
issue-
years under beyond that now, a lot of years that we have history, and it hasn't seemed to have done that.
Well, I agree, and quite frankly, I think, from one of the things that I've had a hard time with the MBTA communities law is that, those highly skilled, high-wage earners that are leaving the state because of housing are not leaving to find cheaper apartments.
Right,
They're looking to
exactly.
find cheaper single-family homes.
They want
with
a way to get
acreage.
into-
And that's just anecdotal information on
Well,
my part. but-
and I would say, I would go so far as to say that maybe single-family homes aren't necessarily everyone's goal any longer, that too has changed some.
I would agree.
But I
That's
think,
a fair
But I
assumption.
think that the ownership piece probably still is there, particularly for those people who are leaving the state because they're highly educated and they want, to work and be able to buy something.
I think there's.
They don't want to live in an apartment forever.
Right. I mean, I think there's a lot of complexity around this issue. And, I think that 20 years ago, 25 years ago, a strategy for folks, I think, in that meeting those demographics would probably be to initially rent and be able to save money to be able to put a down payment on a house. Anecdotally, that's kind of how my hubby and I did it.
Yeah.
But market forces as they are, availability how it is, some of these apartments, I'm looking at these rental prices, they're almost as much as or even more than,
Than
a
a
mortgage situation. So the question is, to Michael's point, what kind of, what's happening here? How are we achieving these goals? And then, of course, there's also the issue of, not just the high, people who are making a lot of money aren't the only ones who are having trouble trying to find a place to live. So there's affordable housing and there's low-income housing. There's a general housing crisis, in the Northeast in our city. And to all of your points, I don't know if current policy direction or recommendations are addressing any of this adequately.
Right.
Right.
I mean, personally, I think, what the state should be concentrating on is more on the wage end, but that's just me. I can't remember if it was the Times or the Globe that did an article a couple weeks ago just doing an analysis of renting versus owning, because they are talking about the fact that more people now are choosing to rent and making that choice and choosing consciously not to own.
That's right.
And they go through the financial factors. But of course, it makes sense in some cases to rent only because housing prices now are so high vis-a-vis, what people's incomes are, what
Interest rates.
Interest rates, exactly. Money's expensive.
But it used to be that you rented so that you could
Right.
save money
Save up.
because it was cheaper to rent than it was to
Exactly.
to own. And now-
Exactly.
But the other thing to remember is this is all cyclical, right?
It is.
I mean,
yeah,
I
and
remember
that's
when
fair.
we were buying our, we did the same thing. We rented an apartment for a number of years, then we looked to buy. I think our interest rates were 11, 12, 13% to buy our first condo,
Wow.
right? In the 90s, that's what interest rates were for
They were in
things.
the 15.
Yeah, depending.
In the 80s,
right?
even
And-
higher.
Right,
Yeah.
and then they went back down, and now they're going back. So it's just like housing and work and interest. It's all cyclical.
I hope
just
the
like
Boy
our economy
Scouts
is
are
cyclical.
getting, taking notes here.
economics.
Economics.
It's a little economics 101.
Okay, we're sort of going a little off track,
yeah,
but
yeah.
any other questions or comments specifically to the comment letter that has been pulled together? Any changes or anything like that you need to see?
So my question is, are we planning to kind of workshop this? Because I'm not, or maybe we take a bit of a break and we have a chance to actually read this, because I don't know if I'm comfortable voting on the letter without having a chance to actually read the letter.
I think that's fair, Brandy, because to be honest, I haven't really had a chance to really look at it or
You just got
absorb it.
Right.
So,
So either way, like if we want to workshop it
What
together.
we could do, we
or
could
take
either
a break.
workshop it together, or we could take 10 minutes, and with that, I mean, some of it is similar to what we saw for the other letter. So either we can walk through this, Michael took us through some of it, or we can take a 10-minute pause and have the opportunity to read through it. What are people feeling?
I mean, the other thing, Yolanda, is, I don't have a time like noon tomorrow that it has to be in. Like, it has to be in tomorrow. So, if you wanted to look at it overnight and provide me comments, tomorrow during the day, I can spend time.
I'd rather take 10 minutes and
Okay.
read it through, and then we can have some consensus and
that would be
vote.
helpful for everybody.
Because you're going to need
be
our
here.
vote on it, and
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable voting until I read it.
Okay.
So,
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Great.
That's okay.
So Mackie, I don't know if you can put something up on the screen. We're going to take a 10-minute pause so we can read through this document, and then we'll be back at 8:30. So if you're watching, I don't. Just if you're joining us back, thank you for your patience. We had continued discussing because we didn't want to hold on. We are currently doing priority project updates, and Michael is updating us on the downtown project. Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome. So, those bids will be due, I think, in a month to 6 weeks. I don't remember exactly. Hopefully, we'll get some good bids in. We're anticipating the work to be around $750,000. Knock on wood. And so that's one piece of good news. The second bit, which is really, really good news, is that one of the things that we've been missing in terms of a key piece of infrastructure is transformers for the project. You might recall I mentioned that. Specifically, we were missing 2 transformers that, specific specs, that allows them to be underground and everything. It wasn't an Ashland issue, it was a statewide issue. And I'm happy to say, through Senate President Spilka's advocacy, I think she was an important person as part of this. We did find out that those transformers are going to be shipped on July 8th. So, again, thanks to the Senate President for help in kind of loosening up the wheels to get that moving. So that's good.
So if I may interrupt you on that, they're being shipped on the 8th, and we've had similar issues when we were doing the public safety building. Certain items are going to be shipped out a certain date. Do we have any idea of when we're going to receive them and when will the work begin?
Joe, nobody's guessing on those. We're saying is they're
Where are they shipping from?
China. So.
That answers that now. Okay. It'll be a while. Got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
So, yes. So, okay, moving on to Mendez. So work on the fields is continuing. There has been some ongoing discussion. We've talked about it at a previous meeting with CONCOM, like an enforcement order that's currently in place and stuff. So I'm happy to say that on Monday, I think we've worked out an agreement to where everybody can move forward and feel comfortable with things. So we'll do a few studies with the understanding that they'll basically serve as a baseline and not necessarily, if anything adverse comes back, it won't be basically held against the project. So after many meetings and months, that is over. So Pond Street, and I know we did receive an email recently just about some potential rumors, I think, about the lack of movement happening on Pond Street. So I did respond, but just for the general public. There has been, that project has stalled out a bit because one of the major components is doing a culvert, a pretty good-sized culvert needs to be redone over on the Market Basket side. So that was designed and everything. When they went to go build and implement it, they found that that wasn't going to work, so they're in the process of redesigning it now. Exactly. That is my understanding from the people that I've spoken with.
So that culvert doesn't have any effect on taking the poles on?
No, that's another piece, and so the utilities are working. I think it's Comcast is up next, okay, transferring the lines. So that is happening as well. We'll talk about Charles Trail.
Are those all going to be underground too?
No, those are not underground.
So they're going to be on the new poles?
The new poles. Just some projects that are not necessarily what we've called priority projects, but major projects and projects of interest. So the sidewalk on 135. So we did get the order of conditions from the CONCOM, and so we do have the contract is in place with the paving company. That's also going to be, the paving company will be doing the sidewalk work. So, and so the design's been finalized. We've actually put together the draft letter that we're going to send to residents, notifying them of the work that's going to be done.
And this is a sidewalk that will go on the eastbound side from the crosswalk that we put in all the way to the community center, or
Correct.
in front of them. Will it go all the way to Olive Street, or where is it
To the
stopping?
community center.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, just that,
And we think that that work will be done before school starts?
that is, it
the
should
hope.
be.
That's
It
Yeah,
should be,
okay.
yeah. So I think, some of the people might have seen updates on the Arboretum or Cadillac Paint, and just the fact that, we do have the paving of the parking lots done. Just want to clarify and make sure everybody knows that the actual trails themselves are still stone dust. It's just the parking lot that's paved. And so a design will be done over the summer, and with the hope that that will be completed, and we'll start the plantings in the fall. So, isn't it look so much better than what it was? I mean, it's hard to imagine what that site was just a few years ago.
Is it something that the public can go see, or not yet? Like, is it
Yeah, they can
open?
they can access
I
it.
mean, the trails are there, and the parking is now, is it lined yet? 'Cause
I don't
when
think it's
drove by, it
lined
wasn't
yet.
lined
The
yet, but-
parking is still blocked off.
Yeah,
It's still blocked
Okay.
off.
yeah, but I do know.
So let's wait until it's
yeah,
lined
clearing.
then before, yeah, okay.
But I do know, like, residents in the area have been taking
Oh,
advantage.
yeah,
of it.
they've been
Go walking.
walking there, yeah.
Which is nice.
Okay.
So, and then we're just another big one that's more recent has just been the ozone filter. So we're working on that and getting that out to bid. Have we done the design? Not the bid yet?
Yeah.
Okay, so that first major piece is done. And then Clover Road, so the planning board process is complete, and shooting for an August/September opening.
Nice.
That's how the garage doors open one day.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
John's doing some work. So.
And I was told that there will be a ribbon cutting July 18th for Starbucks in the afternoon.
Oh, okay.
I think 4 o'clock is what I heard, so, yeah,
Fingers crossed.
fingers crossed, yes.
So a lot of good stuff happening in town. Yeah, I mean, you kind of start adding up all these things. It's a good.
Is that
stuff.
market that's going into the old Dairy Queen, is that still moving forward in the planning board process?
That got approved, right?
That got approved?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Good.
Okay,
Wow, that was quick,
that was quick. So
Yes.
surprisingly.
Yes.
Okay.
Progress.
that'll be great.
Update on the Mass Trails Grant.
Yeah. Wow.
That was big.
Yeah. So a few months ago, we put in a grant application to the Mass Trails Department division, if you will, for $300,000, which was the max that we could apply for land acquisition or easement acquisition for a couple of pieces of parcel off of 126. That is part of the Upper Charles Trail, and I will be very, very honest. I thought we had a snowball's chance in hell. Just kind of given where we were with the property owner. But we found out last week that we were awarded that grant, $300,000. So Yolanda and I, as well as members of the Upper Charles Trail Committee, went to basically that celebration in Holliston on Friday. Have to give a lot of kudos to the Upper Charles Trail Committee and Joel specifically.
Joel Arbeitman, yeah.
Joel did a ton of work on that application. He did a lot of work himself on that. So major congrats to everybody. Thanks again to Senate President Spilka and Representative Lewis for their advocacy for this project. But so the next step is just engaging with that landowner and finalizing what that looks like, and
I'm going to reach out to Joel, and we're probably going to have him come to our second meeting in August to talk about an update and next steps and where they see things, and also sort of talk about how we want to move this project forward, because there's a couple of different ways, so that way to get people up to speed. The exciting thing about this, and it was very nice being at the event, is, for those of you who don't know, so our part of the Upper Charles Trail, the goal is to have a 33-mile loop that goes Ashland to Hopkinton, Hopkinton to Milford, Milford to Holliston, into Sherborne, a little bit in Framingham, and then back into Ashland. So you have that loop. That then goes to Sherborne and Framingham, so that you then have the north and south. In Framingham, they got funding to do what they call their Chris Walsh Trail, which will go around Farm Pond, which will then connect to the Bruce Freeman Trail, which goes further north, which then connects to another trail that goes Boston out to Northampton. The other part of that is you go from Sherborne into Holliston and into Milford, then the goal there is to continue south from Milford so that our little trail, our Upper Charles Trail loop, will be not only part of a big structure here in Massachusetts, but in what's called the North-South Greenway. Basically, the goal is to have a trail that goes from Maine all the way to Florida. And this little portion, so people could hop on their bike in Maine, come down, take a loop through Ashland, come see all the great things that we have in Holliston, and then continue on their merry way south. So that is, there's a lot of federal support and funding. There's a lot of state support and funding. A lot of people have been working on this for a while. Of course, if you don't know, one of the drawbacks we have here in Ashland is we don't have that empty rail bed like Holliston did. But I think we have our trails group, and we've been working on this for a while. I foresee it happening. It's just one of those things it's going to take a little while. And if any of you have ever been at a trails event with me, one of the things I say is we've been working on our trail actively for probably 10 years now. We did the group. Holliston had to work for 20 years on an existing rail bed. So we have half the time. We've made some good progress, but these things take time. Fortunately, right now, there's a lot of funding and support at both the state and the federal level, which was why getting this grant was key for us to continue the work on that project.
And Yolanda, if you don't mind, just to explain a little bit, because we say a lot, what makes our project a little bit difficult is that we don't have an existing rail bed.
Right.
So what makes it easier if you have an existing rail bed is twofold. So first of all, usually you're only dealing with one property owner.
Right.
Maybe two, CSX, and maybe, another train-related entity, which makes, whereas with us, we've got 10 or 20 that we were dealing with.
Property owners that we're trying to work with or get easements from. Certainly purchasing the land in back of the public safety building is going to help with that connection. Look at how we can do it from the cemetery, up in back of the public safety building, up until the high school. And with this grant getting funding so that we have the Dyke Trail off of 126 that heads east. And if you've never walked that trail, you should go check it out because it's a really cool trail. And then the goal is to go now further west. We already have it built in that we're going to cross Route 126. So now we're going to, if we can make this property purchase work, we continue west from there. The Dyke, it's the Dyke Trail. So you know where the paintball company is on Route 126? As you're heading north, just after it, there was always this break in the guardrail, and that's called the Dyke Trail. It takes you into Framingham and Sherborne. It's an old trail. I think there used to be a trolley there.
It was a trolley.
So, but it's been, probably the late 1800s, early 1900s since it's been there. There's no more track. It's just the raised area for the Dyke Trail. And if you follow that,
From 126.
it takes you from 126 into Framingham into a big CSX yard.
Rail yard, yeah.
It's a rail yard from CSX. So Framingham is in the process of trying to work with CSX. They have some real funding in Framingham to bring theirs from the Chris Walsh Trail, which is around Farm Pond. They already have a little section of their trail that goes near, where's the MWRTA road? What's that road? But it goes into downtown.
Yeah.
So,
I
that,
want to say D, I think?
so
I want
I
to say,
think
it's not Dudley.
No. What's really cool, and one of the reasons I know about this, is that our Metro West Regional Collaborative helped kick off working with MAPC. They have someone in their group, David Lutzenheimer, who has been helping with these connections. And again, probably 9 years ago, we had a kickoff here in Town Hall, where not only was it the members of the Metro West Regional Collaborative, which was the 9 units, but we brought in Holliston and Westboro and further west and further east and a little bit north to have the discussion. And so that work is moving forward. And again, because of all this infrastructure money of wanting to improve and get people out of their cars is one of the reasons this project keeps moving forward. So,
Blandon Avenue.
Blandon, that's it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then,
Yeah, it's really cool.
So yeah, obviously great news. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And then,
You listening, Joel, thank you for all your work.
Yes, thank you, Joel.
just the last thing that wasn't on the agenda. So Claudia, Jen, and I met with Framingham State, Mass State College Building Authority, and the design team, if you will, to talk about the Warren Barn last week too. So had a good initial meeting.
Thank you, Claudia, for being willing to do that. Okay, now a number of reminders now that we're back live. Let's see, vacancies on various boards and committees. Affordable Housing Trust has a vacancy for an associate member. Conservation Committee has a vacancy. Open Space and Recreation Committee has 2 vacancies. Stormwater Advisory Committee has a vacancy. Sustainability Committee has a vacancy. Town Forest Committee has a vacancy for an associate member. If you are interested in any of those, you can go to the website and fill out a talent bank form, and we will be appointing people as soon as we have some. Also, the board is seeking a resident to serve on the Naming at the Public Safety Building Committee. Interested parties should complete a talent bank form. We'd like to have that done at our probably July meeting so that we can get the naming reviewed and move forward. We are also seeking residents to serve on the Historic District Study Committee. Interested parties should complete a talent bank form. And again, that's one that's going to be a pretty short lift. Free COVID tests are still available at Town Hall. Town Hall will be closed next week on Thursday, July 4th. Our summer meeting schedule, our next select board meeting will be on Wednesday, July 17th. We are having a retreat meeting on August 7th, and then we will be having another regular meeting on August 17th. Plus, based on conversation, we are going to be looking to do some joint meeting with the planning board, and we will have probably 2 of them or different ones, so be on the lookout for that. That is everything on our agenda. Let's do board reports. So Makita, why don't you kick us off?
Okay, let's see. I think a few weeks ago, I was delighted to be able to attend the Ashland Pride celebration in the corner spot, put on by Ashland United, really tremendous community event. Unfortunately, I had to miss the Juneteenth celebration that area had last weekend, but I was able to roll up my sleeves and participate in the Ashland Cemetery cleanup. I was really more like digging holes, but it was to be more specific, lots of them. But that was a great educational opportunity to find out not just about a memorial art preservation and the importance of that, but really learning about the history of the town a little bit more. So I was really energized to be part of that event, and I know they're going to be looking for more volunteers to help with that.
Yes.
In the fall. I think that's when their next push is going to be. It was pretty hot out there.
Yeah, it was a hot weekend.
But it was a lot of fun. So
Good, okay. Claudia?
Yep, so we had a meeting of the Mindes Building Committee recently, and, that project is really wrapping up quickly. They are doing a lot of site work now and finishing up the fields, kind of very exciting to see all that come to fruition. We certainly could use some additional fields in the town. I think it was this week they were scheduling a walkthrough to just check on the status of everything before we come up to basically a year since completion, in which case a lot of the warranties would be potentially expiring. So they kind of, do that to make sure everything's what it should be at this point in time. Mike mentioned about the Warren Barn. That certainly is exciting up there to have like Framingham State partnering with us, and certainly, they're making so many changes up there in terms of what they've made available to community members. They have a little restaurant, Henry's Place. They have a very small membership fee. I think it's about $120 a year, something like that.
150.
And 150 maybe. And it includes, the ability to use the pickleball courts, to use the beach area and some of the boats and kayaks, et cetera. So that's exciting what they're doing up there. And then on Saturday, I was able to participate in our select board town meeting and the Juneteenth event. So that was really an enjoyable morning. I enjoyed hearing the speakers, and they had some musicians that were very talented, and so that was a great day. So I guess that's it for me.
Okay, Joe?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To piggyback what Claudia just said, participated at the farmers market select board table. It was a lot of. It was very interesting. Throughout the stay there, I actually stayed till the end because it was a lot of fun. Loved the music. I thought I was in Animal Kingdom at Disney because of the music. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
definitely, that
phenomenal.
feel.
And watching the kids as they were walking by, they would dancing and they were celebrating. It was just a lot of fun. It was fantastic. I loved it immensely. The interesting thing about being at the table, we had about 10 to 15 people throughout the day stop, and one of the major concerns of discussion that they brought up was the barrage of 40B projects that are coming into town, and what can Ashland do to prevent it. We explained to them there's not much we can do other than write letters to Mass Housing and to try to get them to understand where we're at and the concerns that we all have. And one gentleman didn't want to talk about the 40B project. He was really concerned about waste management and asked about trash pickup, and is there any current written action in the current contract that would penalize waste management for this repeated missing of trash pickup throughout the community? And I told him, I said, you know what, I don't know. I really don't know, but I'll find out and we'll ask. So is there something? I don't know.
Yeah, there's in their, sorry. In their contract, there's a pretty well outlined and detailed list of penalties, and we have penalized them before. I want to say 6 months ago when it got really, really bad, I think they ended up racking up about $20,000 in what we'll call fines. And their performance turned around a bit. And but lately, we've been very, 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 I think, discouraged with kind of where the performance is going. And so actually this past Thursday and Friday, there were a couple missed pickups. And I instructed Doug to find them.
And I think there was a concern, there was no mention that trash pickup would be delayed because of the holiday. And
That was confusing this past week.
It was very confusing. So a lot of the residents, and I know in my neighborhood, some didn't put their trash out. And sure enough, Waste Management showed up, so their trash wasn't picked up. And they, I get a phone call, what are we going to do? I said, well, give the DPW a call, when they're open on Friday. And so,
You can
that's.
have them call my husband, who is at the family. He lets everybody know if trash is going to be delayed. We get emails that go out to all the family members. They can get put on his list.
Remember, Dick, Claudia brought this up. I did not bring this up. Claudia did.
He's happy to report that.
It was definitely confusing.
It was a little
because there was
confusing.
no delay
Right.
And
for trash, and Wednesday was a national holiday, so I would have expected trash to be delayed by a day.
Right.
And it
Yeah.
wasn't.
it was not.
They
Yeah.
picked up on Wednesday.
So they're pretty clear in the flyer that they put out.
We have it posted.
Of what holidays are considered.
And I think with this being a new one, people might have been confused.
And lastly, with respect to the farmer's market being there for the table, we had several new residents come up and introduce themselves.
Yeah?
And they were ecstatic about the town. They didn't realize that Ashland offered so many different variety of opportunities and events for them. And they said this is a lot better than where we came from. And they were very happy, and they look forward to staying here in town for quite some time, and they were very, very pleased. And we all welcomed them to Ashland. And a big shout out to Bill Gath, who last Tuesday received the Melvin Jones Award. That is the highest award that the Ashland Lions can bestow on. Melvin Jones was the international founder of the Lions in the United States. So congratulations, Bill. And during this heat advisory, I just would like to remind everybody to check on their senior citizens if they live in the area, make sure they're okay, make sure they have, a cooling area, or provide a ride to a cooling station or center that's made available through the
Which is
town.
a community center.
Right, which is our community
Library as
center here in
well.
the library. And make sure they have plenty of water to stay hydrated. And ACO also advises us to make sure that our furry friends are also in the shade or inside where it's cool, and keep them hydrated as well. Traffic Study Committee met on the 18th, and we discussed many concerns that the residents have. We would love to be able to put sidewalks and crosswalks on every single street of the road in town, but that's not going to happen because of budgetary issues. And we are working to the best of our ability, but everything comes down to human nature. It's people that drive fast. They don't pay attention to the signs. We have signs up, not a throughway, but people still go through it anyway because they don't want to be delayed. And it's very frustrating, extremely frustrating. So bear with us. We're working on it. And that's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Brandy?
Okay, I'll be pretty quick. I just wanted to thank the Ashland Farmers Market and area for a really great Juneteenth program. It was great to be there on behalf of our board, and the table that we had was. Thank you guys for pitching in on office hours at the farmers market. I think the way like Joe said, it's a really great way for people to come and talk to us, which is it's a good opportunity. I did want to talk a little bit about our next dates at the farmers market, just so we can make sure that we're all on the same page. Generally, we're trying to do like one a month, and the July date. I know that I think it was the 13th or the 12th or whatever that date. 13th. The 13th and the 20th were the two dates that I had floated by. The farmers market came back and said they couldn't do the 13th. So, and I know a lot of folks can't do the 20th. Do we want to look at the 27th, or do we want to just do the August date, the August 10th? Because with the 4th of July holiday and everything in there, like I'm just, so I wanted to just see what you guys thought about that.
I'm not sure what we're doing, but.
Okay. I know summer's hard. Saturdays are hard.
The
We're
other
away
thing I'd
August
like to
10th,
recommend is maybe we reach out to a couple, like school committee and planning board, and say, hey, we're getting the community tent for one of these dates. Does you guys want to join us? Because that could give us different coverage. Because I don't know if they're actively doing that.
We can do that.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I think that's great. And that way there's coverage, and there's actually more folks that people can come up and
Right.
interact with.
Yeah.
Okay. So do we want to tentatively think to do maybe that July 20th date, and then ask, I can reach
Yeah.
out to.
Right, just
Yeah.
send it out to their whole board, to both planning and school committee, and say, hey, we're looking to do a town tent. Do you guys want to join us? For part of it, all of it, whoever wants to show up.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. That sounds good. All right, so, okay. And then we'll plan on August 10th as well as the next date. Okay.
Yep. Okay.
And just to piggyback on what you guys were talking about with the community club over at Framingham State, this upcoming Sunday is an Ashland Day, so.
Yeah, it's the second one.
Yeah, so I hadn't seen the thing about the first one, and then I was like, oh, it's a good opportunity to go test it out. So if you guys want to go rent kayaks, or I think
On Sunday?
this next
Yeah,
Sunday.
it's coming.
I think it's like
Yeah, they
10
had
to
it this
4 or
past
something
weekend
like
as
that.
well.
I saw that.
You have to sign up for it, but you can
Okay.
try out like stand-up paddle boards and stuff like that, which I always am scared about, but they have all sorts of stuff over there, pickleball and tennis and things like that.
I'll try that stand-up paddleboard, Randy, with you if you're looking for someone to be a buddy to be adventurous with.
All right, deal.
But both of you on the same board holding on?
Moral support.
Probably going to be a scenario.
Yeah, so,
Resting on my knees, there's no standing.
yeah. And then just the only other thing, when Joe and I were at the table at the farmer's market, our friend David Sanacandro came over and was talking to us, and David's such a great guy. And he watches our meetings, and so he even records them. So he says to us all the time that he sees us on TV. So I told him we'd give him a shout out. Yep.
There you go.
So David, we know you're watching, and thank you for hanging in there with us. So
Yes.
Yes.
good to see you last weekend.
Great.
And that's it.
Okay. Couple things. We received a letter from Comcast, and I just wanted to read it to the public so you're aware. As part of their ongoing commitment to keep our customers informed about changes to Xfinity TV services, we wanted to notify you that the Pac-12 network is ceasing operation on June 30th, 2024. So as a result, the Pac-12 network will no longer be available as part of the Comcast lineup. So if you watch that, I don't know if you do, they've also then implemented a channel slate change, and you can check that out to keep our customers informed during this period. And you are getting notified of this in your statement, but I figured we could read it here as well.
Which means you'll probably see a slight decrease in your bill. Probably.
Yeah, no. Couple things. So legislative event with Metro West Regional Collaborative happened on June 14th. It seems like forever ago. It was a great event. It was so fun to have a lot of different communities together and discuss. We didn't have that many legislators because they were dealing with budget still, but it was a good event. Claudia touched base on the Mendez, so I don't have to do that. Brandy talked about Ashland Day at the University Club. Last day of school was June 18th, so congratulations to everyone who finished the school year, and be safe and sound through your summer. Two other updates for issues around town. So at the Outdoor YMCA Center, they now have outdoor new pickleball courts.
Oh.
And there is a ribbon cutting happening for that on Thursday. And then if you love Halloween and you enjoy acting, or even just want to give your hand at acting, there's a new event. It started last year called The Haunt. It is a fundraiser between the Hopkinton Center for the Arts and the Metro West YMCA, and they are holding auditions on Sunday for people who would like to go. It's a 2-weekend event in the end of October. You don't have to commit to both weekends, but if you love Halloween and you want to have an opportunity, the event this year is a wedding at Deadwoodville, where they have I think it's a mortal. The groom is mortal and the bride is immortal. So some of the signs have been around town.
What is this event like? So is it like an acting opportunity? Is it like
It's an acting and or dance opportunity.
Got it.
You audition to be a witch, or?
You audition to be one of the members of the town. So you could be part of the church. You could be a bridesmaid. You could be, so when they did it last year, they had a doll shop. They had a town hall. They had an electric chair. They had a laundry. They had Chops Diner. And because it was out on the YMCA property, they had their camp, and someone died at camp. And so, yeah. So if you enjoy Halloween and you want to participate, they are looking for a lot of volunteers because, as I said, it's a 2-weekend endeavor this year, and they're looking for people. You don't have to commit to both weekends. Okay. So, but you can go to HCA, their website, and there are some signs around town talking about it. And that's all that I have. So our next meeting will be on Wednesday, July 17th. So happy 4th of July. Be safe with your
Yep.
friends and family. Be aware of our first responders who are going to be out there keeping us
That's right.
all safe.
One quick.
Yes,
if I
go
may,
ahead,
I'm
Joe.
sorry. I'm sorry. I just wanted to bring up that our next Emma concert is going to be July 19th. It's a town Metro West favorite band. It's Back Pages. They're very, very good. I'm sure you've heard them before. The folks that know Inky Fair and his band, that's who they are. Come and enjoy them. Our last concert was our first concert last Tuesday. We had about 125 people show up for the
Nice.
first one, which was
Wow.
very nice. It went well.
Nice. That's great.
So we appreciate that. And starting next week, July 5th, Ashland will be selling its favorite corn.
Oh,
So
nice.
Be ready to see that at
Yummy.
Lucky Farm, so.
Okay.
I have a quick question just about trash fines. Where does that money go when we find them?
So Claudia, it's technically not it's not done as a fine. It's actually done as a withholding of payment.
Oh,
So they send us an invoice of, $100,000, and let's just say they've racked up 20,000 in fines.
Just
We
did
would
that
send them
Got
$80,000 with the understanding.
I was thinking maybe we'd give everybody a free bag or something.
Yeah.
I have one more point.
Yeah, go ahead.
With the July 4th weekend coming up, I just wanted to remind folks that in Massachusetts, fireworks are illegal. So I think that, with pets and kids and such, just be careful and be safe. Take the chair's words to heart, but also remember that those fireworks are something that we want to keep out of little hands especially, but really out of everybody's hands, or you might lose a hand. So.
And there's certainly enough places that are doing fireworks.
So
Yeah,
many
June
events.
Holliston
Yes.
is doing stuff.
June 28th
Yeah.
in Framingham. They're
Yeah.
having their
June
big-
28th,
Yeah.
yes, they're
So,
doing something.
M80s belong in New Hampshire.
M80s belong in New Hampshire.
Yes, they
Okay.
do. And thank you to the 3 Life Scouts that are in our audience tonight,
Indeed.
along with their sponsor, Mrs. Carmichael. Thank you very much. I learned something tonight, that a Life Scout is the next step before Eagle Scout.
Yeah.
And I just learned that tonight, so congratulations to
here.
you 3.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool.
That
Very
is
cool.
cool.
Great. If I can get a motion to adjourn
So moved.
and a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you for joining us. Sorry for the hiccup with power outages. Not much we can do about that. And we will see you again at our next Select Board meeting on Wednesday, July 17th. But I'm sure we'll see you out and about at either the farmer's market or other great events. Stay safe, and we'll see you all in a few weeks. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
And the grandson's